Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. This wall above my mantle is looking a little bare and I want to put a mirror there. I bought this bit of round mirror glass and I just need to make a frame for it. I'm going to mount it on some 18mm ply and the first job is to find the centre. I'm going to cut this out using the jig I have for the bandsaw, but you could do it freehand on the bandsaw or just use a jigsaw. I measure the diameter of the mirror, then I half that number and mark it out on the jig. Then from the underside of the jig I'm going to drill a hole through and put a screw through for it to pivot on. Now I can line the tip of the screw up with the centre point I marked out on that ply and get the screw tightened down. I leave it loose enough so the ply can spin freely. I can now get it slid onto the bandsaw. With the ply slid into the blade I can then start slowly rotating it, cutting out the circle. I've used this jig quite a few times, but this is the worst circle I've cut out, so I did some sanding to finish refining the shape. So this ply is going to be the base for the mirror to go on, but I want it to have a frame, so I measure the circumference of it. It's got a 51-inch waist, so I need to cut some oak down slightly oversized to fit that. I'm going to cut it down longer than I need to give me some wiggle room. Plus, I'm going to be layering some strips up, so each strip is going to need to be longer than the previous one. This is rough sawn oak, so when I've got it cut down to the size I need, I can then get one surface planed and then one edge done as well. I can then reconfigure the machine for thicknessing and get it passed through. I work out how tall I want the frame to be, then I can set the fence on the table saw to that. Then I can rip down a couple of pieces. Now I can turn these pieces on their side so they're the height I want the frame to be, and I can raise the blade up slightly above them. I'm moving the fence over so I'm taking the thinnest strip I can off these pieces, and then I'm setting up a magnetic stop so that I'll be able to repeat these cuts. Now I can feed the oak through, making the first cut. With the first cut done, I can then put the oak in against the magnetic stop, move the fence over until it's touching, get it locked down, and then I can make another cut. I can now repeat this process until I've got a stack of thin strips. I really need these to be a consistent thickness to get a nice glue up, so I'm going to try clamping a fence to my bobbin sander. With a clamp on one end I can then pivot it to change the thickness. I actually changed these clamps to some parallel ones as they worked better. I can then feed the strips through to try and get them evenly sanded. I had to keep a really good hold of them because this machine really wants to grab them and shoot them across the room. But it seemed to work pretty well, and I'm left with a pile of some really thin flexible strips. I can now get the first bit put round the ply, and I'm relieved to see it goes all the way around without any cracking. The two ends overlap, so I can mark out where they do, and then I can use a pull saw to trim them down. Now I can start getting the bits attached, so I know I'm going to need a lot of glue for this, so I get some squeezed out into a jug, and then I can get it brushed around the outside of the ply. To hold the oak in place while the glue dries, my plan is to use some really small brad nails. So I start bending the oak round and firing some brads in through it. Unfortunately, even on the lowest setting, they go straight through, so I'm going to go for plan B of nailing in some little tacks. The heads are too small on these and they pull straight through the oak, so we'll go for plan C and fire some staples in. These obviously look ugly, but they work. This is only the first layer, so you're not going to see them. Unfortunately, these staples sit a little proud, so I have to go round with the hammer and just tap them down a bit. With that done, we can move on to layer 2. So first, I spread out lots of PVA glue on the strip of oak. Then I get it bent round the same as before, but this time I'm going to use these little spring clamps to help hold it in place. This wouldn't have worked with the first layer as there was nothing to clamp onto. Now these are just temporary because obviously they're not providing very even pressure, so now I can get a ratchet strap going around it. With this tightened down, it should provide a bit more even pressure and I can get some of these clamps off. Maybe in hindsight I should have used this on the first layer as well, but you live and learn. When the glue's dried, the ratchet clamp can come off, and then I can keep repeating the process. So every strip of wood is going to need to be slightly longer than the last, so I keep having to put it round, mark it and cut them to length. I keep repeating this process until I've built up 5 layers. You could keep going and make it as thick as you want, but I was pretty happy with the look of that. When the last layer was dry, I could get it out the clamp and then give it all a sand down to even up all the edges. Unfortunately my clamping wasn't perfect and there was a few voids, but a bit of oak wood filler easily sorted these out. I need a way of hanging this to the wall, and I'm going to go for using a leather strap. I managed to buy this strap on eBay the exact length I needed, but the ends need joining together, so I'm going to punch a hole through the centre of each end. I'm then going to use a copper rivet to join them together. The rivet goes through both of the holes, making sure you haven't got it twisted in any way. Then a copper washer goes on, and then this seating tool goes on and bashes the washer down. I can then use some side cutters to cut off any excess length on this rivet. Then the seating tool has a second function, this little domed bit on the bottom that can go over, bash the end of the rivet down to dome it over. The leather strap needs something to hang off, so I've got some of this 28mm oak dowel. I'm just going to mark how long I want it to be, and then I can cut it to length on the miter saw. I can use my centre finder to find and mark the centre of this because I want to be able to put a screw in it. I get it clamped up in a vise to help keep it square, and then I can drill a pilot hole in the centre. So that I can get this screwed into the wall, I've got a dowel screw that has a thread going in either direction. I get half of this chucked up in my hand drill, and then I can drive it into the dowel. With that oak filler dry, I can give the mirror a final sanding down, and then it's time to apply some finish. So I'm just going to use some Danish oil for this. I get a coat on the frame, leave it a few hours, and then get a second coat on, and I also get that wooden dowel done in the same way. When the finish is dry, I can get the mirror attached. So not to damage the foil of the mirror, I bought a special mirror adhesive. I'll put a link down below on my Amazon page to this. I was about to apply it to the back of the mirror and then I realised there was a protective plastic coating, so that could have been disastrous. With that removed, I can get the adhesive applied to the back of the mirror. Now I can get the glass installed into the frame, so I just get it put in place and then apply some gentle pressure pushing it down. It says to leave it 48 hours, so to be safe I did this, but in the meantime I could still get the leather strap installed. With it around the frame, I can drill some pilot holes in from either side and in the bottom, and then get some little brass screws put in. It was all a bit filthy with my fingerprints, so I gave it all a clean before I could start getting it installed. I need to drill into the wall, and I don't want my badges getting dirty, so first I need to get them out the way, and then I can get the hole drilled for the plug to go into. I get a raw plug tapped into the hole, and then that oak dowel with the dowel screw can be put into place. Now the leather strap of the mirror can just go over this dowel, and that's it all done. This bit of wall now doesn't look quite so bare, and I can check my hair before I start filming. Thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreons, and please subscribe for more videos.